Good afternoon. Welcome to the Midday Mull for Friday the 16th of February. With McShane, we continue working our way through Paul's letter to the Corinthians. Today the third chapter, which begins, "Brothers and sisters, I could not address you as people who live by the Spirit, but as people who are still worldly, mere infants in Christ." And he says, I wanted to give you substantial teaching, but I have to give you fundamental teaching, the mere milk again. He says, that's because you are worldly. For since there is jealousy and quarreling among you, are you not worldly? Are you not acting like mere humans? When one of you says, I follow Paul, and another, I follow Apollos, are you not mere human beings? And Paul highlights the divisions in the church, and that's something which has plagued the church since that time on. For the last 2,000 years, divisions in the church have always been a problem. It's not saying that there shouldn't be differences, but differences shouldn't become divisions. And in this church, there are differences. People have different opinions, but fortunately, we've been able to maintain a unity. And Paul goes on and he highlights that these differences, they're not differences of politics. They're not arguing about who should be emperor. It's not sporting issues of who's the greatest gladiator. These are theological differences about the teachings of Paul and the teachings of Apollo. And it's the theological differences that are often divisive in the church. And what we need to recognize is there will be differences of opinion, that there are differences in the way people do things. There are differences in emphasis. But we need to focus on what the foundation is. And Paul, if you continue reading, he says the foundation is Christ. And Apollos and Paul are mere workers with God. They have different roles and they have different functions. Therefore, they will do things differently. There will be differences. But they're working for the same purpose, which is to grow the kingdom. And they're building on the same foundation, which is Jesus Christ. And as Christians, we need to recognize that we have a foundation in Christ. We have the same purpose as Christians, which is to grow the kingdom and glorify God. And we have to recognize that the differences which there are should not become divisions. We should accept that people will be different. We will have different points of view. Thank goodness. It would be terrible if everybody was exactly the same. But we need to find strength in those differences. And later on in Corinthians, he highlights that people have different gifts, and everybody needs to bring what they can to the table. We're not the same, but those differences aren't divisions, and we need to remember that. So be encouraged to appreciate what you have. Appreciate how people differ from you. And sometimes we won't see eye to eye. We're going to have to look away from the person's eye, so we don't have to worry about whether we're seeing eye to eye. We need to look at the face of Christ, for that's where our unity is. So be encouraged to stand with Christ, to walk with Christ, to hold on to Christ, and to live with one another. As we do that, we're blessed.